They called him Adrian Cole, the ruthless millionaire CEO who built an empire from ashes. To the world, he was untouchable, sharp suits, cold eyes, no mercy, love. That was for the weak, but fate has a way of breaking even the strongest walls. One rainy afternoon, Adrian walked into a hospital for a deal, not for emotion. Yet, one voice froze him in place. "Daddy." A small girl stood before him, holding a crumpled teddy bear. Tears in her eyes, and behind her stood Alina, the only woman he'd ever loved. And lost on in that one moment, the man who thought he owned everything, realized he had nothing. Because the child calling him daddy wasn't a stranger. She was his. The city glittered beneath Adrian Cole's penthouse window, every tower, every light a reflection of his success. He was 35, billionaire by strategy, millionaire by heartlessness. Contracts, boardrooms, takeovers, those were the things he trusted. People, never again. Once, years ago, someone had taught him what love could mean. Her name was Alina Hart. She wasn't from his world. She painted walls, smiled at sunsets, and believed even broken things could be beautiful again. She had seen something human in him, when everyone else saw only profit. And then, she disappeared. No message, no goodbye, just silence, leaving behind an echo he pretended not to hear. Adrian buried her memory under files, deals, and success. He convinced himself love was a liability. He told himself she had chosen to leave. He told himself he didn't care. But that lie would break the day he walked into that hospital. It started with a business call. A hospital merger his company was acquiring. His assistant mentioned a charity wing, under a woman's name he didn't notice at first. Until the letters sank in. Alina Hart Foundation. The pen fell from his hand. For the first time in years, his schedule didn't matter. He had to see it. He had to know. When he arrived, the antiseptic air hit him, sharp, sterile, real. He wasn't used to this kind of silence, where money didn't talk and every heartbeat counted. The receptionist smiled. "Mr. Cole, right, you're here for the foundation inspection." He nodded, though his pulse was uneven. Each corridor he walked through carried the scent of loss and recovery. A place where life negotiated with death every hour. Then, through the glass door of the children's wing, he saw her. Alina, hair shorter now, face paler, yet the same quiet grace that had once undone him. She was helping a nurse, her hands gentle as she adjusted a child's blanket. She didn't see him. For a man known for controlling rooms, Adrian couldn't move. Memories crashed over him, her laughter, her scent, the way she used to trace his jaw with paint-stained fingers. He had built an empire to prove he didn't need anyone. And yet, here she was, the only thing he had ever truly wanted. He stepped closer, but before his voice could form her name, a small sound pierced the air. "Daddy." Adrian froze. A little girl, no older than 4, stood at the end of the hall, big brown eyes, trembling lips, clutching a teddy bear so tight it looked like it held her heart. "Daddy," she whispered again, as if afraid the word would disappear. Alina turned sharply, her breath catching as she saw him. Their eyes met, past, pain, and disbelief colliding in a single heartbeat. The nurse's voice broke the tension. "Lila, sweetheart, come here." Lila, the girl's name was Lila. But Adrian barely heard anything after that. His mind was a storm. Was this his child? No, it couldn't be. He had ended things with Alina 5 years ago. 5 years. Lila looked about 4. His throat tightened. His world, the empire he'd built, suddenly felt like glass. Alina quickly pulled Lila into her arms, shielding her, her eyes wide with panic. "Lila, baby, go to Aunt May." "Okay," she said softly. "Mommy needs a moment." Lila obeyed, glancing back at him, confusion clouding her tiny face. When the girl was gone, silence hung between them like a sentence neither could finish. Adrian finally spoke. "Alina, is she?" She didn't let him finish. "You shouldn't be here, Adrian." Her voice was calm, too calm. The way people sound when they're fighting to stay upright. "I came because I saw your name," he said quietly. "That foundation, it's none of your concern. None of my—" His control cracked. "You vanished for 5 years, and I find you here with a child, calling me daddy, and you think I won't ask." Her eyes shimmered with something that wasn't anger. It was pain. Deep, buried pain. "You lost the right to ask," she said. "Remember the night you chose your company over me? The night you said love didn't fit your schedule?" Adrian swallowed, his voice lowering. "Alina, I didn't know." She cut him off again. "No, Adrian, you never wanted to know." For a moment, his ruthless mask faltered. He looked at her, really looked. The tiredness in her eyes, the small scar on her wrist, the way her body leaned slightly as if guarding a secret too heavy to carry. "What happened to you?" he whispered. Tears glimmered, but she blinked them away. "Life happened," she said softly, "the kind you can't buy your way out of." Before he could answer, a nurse rushed in. "Alina, we need you in room 302. It's one of your kids." Alina nodded quickly and turned to go. But just before leaving, she looked back, her voice trembling. "Don't follow me, Adrian, please, for Lila's sake." And she disappeared behind the door. Adrian stood frozen in that white corridor, haunted by two words that echoed in his mind: Daddy, Lila. He didn't know what hurt more, the past he'd destroyed, or the future he never knew existed. For the first time in his life, Adrian Cole, the ruthless millionaire CEO, realized that power meant nothing when the one thing you wanted was beyond control. And somewhere in that hospital, the truth waited, one that could either break him completely, or make him human again. The night refused to sleep. Adrian sat in his car outside the hospital, the city lights flickering across the windshield like ghosts. He had built towers that kissed the sky, but tonight, he couldn't climb out of his own thoughts. The name kept echoing in his head. Lila, the little girl with his eyes. Every breath felt heavier than the last. He had faced corporate wars, billion-dollar losses, and boardroom betrayals without flinching. But this was something his money couldn't negotiate. He could still hear her voice. "Don't follow me, Adrian, for Lila's sake." He closed his eyes, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. For 5 years, he had lived like a man made of steel. Now, one word Daddy had cracked him open like glass. The next morning, he walked back into the hospital. This time, he wasn't here as the CEO of Cole Enterprises. He was here as a man chasing answers. He went straight to the foundation office. The receptionist looked up nervously. "I need to speak with Miss Hart," he said, voice calm but commanding. I'm sorry. Sir, she's busy with the children's ward today, but I can tell her, I'll wait," Adrian said simply, and sat down. Minutes passed, then an hour. Through the glass window, he saw her Alina kneeling beside a hospital bed, comforting a sick child. Her voice was gentle, her eyes soft. Every gesture, every smile was the same as he remembered, except now, there was something deeper, a quiet sadness, a strength carved by loss. When she finally came out, she looked exhausted. "You don't listen well, do you?" she said quietly. "Not when I need the truth," Adrian replied. Alina sighed. "Fine. 10 minutes. After that, you leave." They walked to a small courtyard behind the hospital. Wind stirred the leaves, carrying the faint scent of disinfectant and flowers. Adrian spoke first. "She's mine, isn't she?" Alina didn't answer right away. Her silence was enough. Adrian's breath hitched. He turned away, his jaw tightening. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you made it clear what you wanted, Adrian," she said softly. "You wanted power, not love. You told me there was no space in your life for us." He remembered those words, every cruel syllable. Back then, he'd been angry, scared of losing control. He thought ending things would protect them both. He was wrong, Alina continued, her voice trembling. "When I found out I was pregnant, I wanted to tell you. But before I could, your company released that statement, the one about your engagement to Vanessa Gray." Adrian froze. "That wasn't, I didn't." She smiled bitterly. "I know now, it was business, a deal. But back then, it broke me." He stared at her, his voice hollow. "So you just left?" "I had no choice. My father was sick, and I didn't want to raise a child in a world where her father measured love by profit margins." Adrian took a step closer. "You think I wouldn't have loved her?" Tears filled her eyes. "You didn't even love yourself back then." Silence, the kind that hurt more than words. He wanted to tell her he'd changed, that success had lost its taste, that every night, he had seen her face in the quiet of his penthouse. But she already knew. Her eyes said she'd seen it too, the emptiness behind all his victories. "Alina," his voice softened, "I can't change what I did, but I want to be part of her life. Please." She looked away. "It's not that simple. Lila's world is small, safe. She doesn't understand who you are, what you can do. If she knows you're her father, she'll have questions I can't answer." Adrian nodded slowly. "Then let me earn that place. Not as a CEO, not as the man who broke you. As her father." Alina hesitated. "You don't even know her. She loves painting. Like me. She's afraid of thunder. She cries when she thinks no one sees her. And when she smiles, her voice cracked. It's the same smile you used to have before the world hardened you." Adrian felt something inside him collapse. For years, he'd measured success in stock prices. Now he measured it in missed moments, birthdays, laughter, bedtime stories he never told. Before he could speak again, a nurse rushed into the courtyard. "Miss Hart, it's Lila. She's having a seizure." The world stopped. Elena's face went pale as she sprinted toward the building. Adrian followed, his heart slamming in his chest. They reached the pediatric ICU. Lila lay on the bed, trembling, her tiny hand clutching the teddy bear. Machines beeped around her like frantic alarms. Alina stepped back. The doctor said, "We need space." Alina stood frozen. Adrian caught her before she fell. She gripped his arm like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the doctor stepped out. "She's stable for now." The episode was "She's been through too much lately." Adrian turned to Alina. "What does he mean? Too much?" Elena's eyes filled with tears. "She has a heart condition. It's been getting worse." The words hit him like a blow. All his power, all his money, useless. He couldn't fix this with a signature or a deal. He walked into the room quietly. Lila was asleep, her small chest rising and falling. He sat beside her, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. She stirred slightly, whispering in her sleep, "Daddy, don't go." Adrian's throat tightened. A single tear slipped down his cheek, the first he had shed in years. Behind him, Alina watched silently, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. For the first time in forever, the ruthless CEO looked human, and in that small hospital room, surrounded by machines and soft breaths, Adrian Cole made a silent promise he would never walk away again. Days turned into weeks, and Adrian never left the hospital. The CEO who once commanded boardrooms now spent his mornings reading fairy tales. Beside a fragile little girl with a smile brighter than his entire empire, Lila had begun to recover slowly. Her laughter returned, soft and shy, but her eyes, those wide, knowing eyes, seemed to hold a question she was too scared to ask. Alina watched them from the doorway one afternoon. Adrian was sitting by the window, showing Lila how to fold paper boats. She giggled as one slipped off the table. It was such a simple moment, yet it felt like something sacred. He looked up and caught Elena's gaze. For a second, time froze again. No money, no power, no past, just two people standing in the ruins of what they once had, watching something new begin to grow. That evening, Adrian asked to speak with Alina outside. They sat on a bench in the hospital garden. The city glowed faintly behind them. "She's amazing," he said softly. "She's brave, just like her mother." Alina smiled faintly. "She gets that from you. The stubbornness, too." He laughed quietly, then turned serious. "I need to tell her. She deserves the truth." Alina shook her head. "Not yet. She's still healing. And if she finds out now," she trailed off, unable to finish. "I understand," Adrian said gently, "but promise me one thing. Don't shut me out this time." Alina hesitated, then whispered, "I won't." He nodded. "Then let me stay. Not as a CEO, not as a ghost from your past. Let me be part of her life." Alina looked at him for a long moment. The man standing before her wasn't the one she'd once left behind. The cold arrogance was gone, replaced by quiet strength, regret, and love he didn't know how to hide anymore. "You already are," she said softly. Over the next few months, Adrian's world changed. He still ran his company, but now his mornings began at the children's hospital instead of conference calls. He learned how to braid Lila's hair terribly. He brought her sketchbooks, tiny sneakers, and a puppy that immediately chewed his cufflinks. For the first time, his home didn't echo with silence. But fate wasn't done testing him. One morning, he arrived at the hospital to find Alina pacing the hallway, pale and shaking. "It's Lila," she said, voice breaking. "She's in surgery. Her heart, it's failing again." Adrian froze. The air vanished from the room. Hours passed like years. He sat outside the operating theater, hands clasped, head bowed. For the first time in his life, Adrian Cole, the man who controlled everything, was utterly helpless. He whispered to no one in particular, "Take my heart instead. Just let her live." When the doors finally opened, the surgeon smiled faintly. "She made it. It's going to be a long recovery. But she'll live." Adrian closed his eyes, a silent tear falling. He didn't care who saw. Weeks later, Lila was home, weak but smiling again. She sat on the couch, drawing something on a piece of paper. Adrian walked in, loosened his tie, and smiled. "What are you working on, little artist?" She held up the drawing. It was a picture of 3 stick figures, a woman, a man, and a little girl holding hands. Underneath, in shaky handwriting, she had written, "My family." Alina stood in the doorway, hand over her mouth. Leela looked up at Adrian, eyes wide and hopeful. "Mommy says you're my special friend," she said. "Are you?" Adrian knelt down, his voice trembling. "More than that, sweetheart." He hesitated, tears threatening to fall. "I'm your dad." Lila blinked, then smiled, the kind of smile that healed years of silence. "I knew it," she whispered, "because, when I was scared in the hospital, I dreamed you held my hand." He pulled her into his arms, unable to speak. Alina watched, tears streaming down her face. For the first time, Adrian didn't hide his tears. He let them fall freely. Honestly, because he had finally learned that love wasn't weakness. It was strength. Months later, Adrian and Alina sat together at the park, watching Lila play. The sun dipped low, golden light wrapping around them. Alina turned to him. "Do you ever miss that life? The one before us?" Adrian smiled. "Every day. Because without losing it, I wouldn't have found this." He took her hand, fingers intertwining easily now. "You once said I didn't love myself. You were right. But now, I see myself in her eyes. And in yours." Alina leaned against him. "Then maybe, after all this time, we finally found home." Leela waved from the swings. "Mom, Dad, look at me." They both smiled, two hearts that had been broken, now whole again. And as the wind carried the sound of her laughter, Adrian Cole realized the ruthless millionaire was gone. All that remained was a man who finally knew how to love. He had built an empire of steel. But love rebuilt the man inside it. Adrian's story reminds us that success means nothing if your heart remains empty. When life gave him a second chance, he didn't buy it, he earned it, through tears, forgiveness, and the gentle hand of a child who called him daddy. Watch this emotional masterpiece where power meets vulnerability, and love becomes redemption. Because sometimes, even the coldest hearts can find warmth in the smallest voices. Only on Magic Light AI, stories that touch the soul and remind us what truly matters.